So what happens if you bring guns into the world of Pokemon? You get PalWorld, kinda. So everyone is calling PalWorld Pokemon with guns, but it's not really the same gameplay and style of Pokemon. You have these pals, and they resemble kinda closely to some Pokemon that you may know, and there's a lot of debate that they just straight ripped them off, but I also believe that with how many Pokemon are out there, as well as Digimon, as well as Yu-Gi-Oh, all these like made up monsters and everything, it's a little hard to be original. And to be fair, some of them do look extremely similar. I'm not gonna say that they don't have similarities, but I mean, I guess that's the kind of design that we're going for. And again, with Pokemon having over 1,000 Pokemon, trying to follow that similar design style, you can only do so much. And real quick, you know, Pokemon is catch Pokemon, kind of like explore, and eventually you beat gyms and you beat the Elite Four. And the way you play Pokemon is it's a turn-based battle thing. But PalWorld is different. PalWorld is kind of like two games in one. It's base building and management. That's its own thing. And then there's exploration, open world adventure. And the way PalWorld sets this whole thing up, you need to do both of them in order to progress properly, but you don't need to do both of them at all times. You know, if you feel like just going off and adventuring for an extended period of time, you can. But then if you want to go back and manage the pals, manage your bases, build everything, and spend some time making the bases look nice and stuff, then again, you can. You can alter back and forth whenever you kind of get bored of one or the other. And also, combat is not like Pokemon. It's not turn-based. It's all real-time combat, where you see an enemy, as soon as you decide to engage them, you attack them, and then, you know, battling starts happening, combat starts happening. You're not waiting to attack and then to get attacked and back and forth like that. There's dodge mechanics, there's cooldowns for certain attacks, and then your pal fights as well as you do. Unlike Pokemon, where only the Pokemon fight and the trainer just stands there and waits. Also, some pals can be ridden, and then when you ride the pals, you have access to their abilities and also their style of movement. And depending on what you're fighting, you kind of want to either use your pal and fight to their advantage in their style of combat, or throw your pal to the side and kind of see if you can split aggro between yourself and the pal. And then I want to talk about the whole guns thing, because again, there are guns in the game, but it's not like the focus of the game. It's a drawing point, it's a selling point, but the entire game doesn't revolve around guns. The main thing is exploring and completing the pal deck and just, you know, finding all the different pals that there are in the world. But as I just previously mentioned, your character can fight as well as your pals, and guns are a way of doing that. You start off with quote-unquote primitive weapons. You have an axe, a pickaxe, but that's more for collecting resources. But, you know, you start off with a bow, and then you get a crossbow, spear, and then you start working your way up. Eventually you get like bigger weapons. You can get an assault rifle at some point, a rocket launcher at some point. And when you do have a gun, you can go shoot pals and damage them. The good thing is, like, this game isn't gory or anything. They get knocked out, they die, whatever. But if you approach a dead pal, you can see they have little swirls in their eyes, so they're not dead, you know, they just get knocked out, even though you shoot them or whatever. Like in Pokemon, you hit them with a hyper beam, it doesn't die, it doesn't disintegrate, it just gets knocked out, it faints. And same thing here, you can shoot them or whatever, hit them with your pal, and they simply get knocked out. But you gotta be careful if you're gonna actually try and catch the pals. You gotta get their health as low as possible, and then throw the pal sphere, and then that's gonna increase your chances. And there are also different tiers to the pal spheres, and the higher tiers, they cost more resources to make, but they also give you even better chances. Now, a couple of problems I have with the game. None of these are actually with the gameplay. It's more of early access release bugs and kind of quality of life type things. Certain hitboxes, or hitbox for accessing menus and chests and the PAL box and stuff, they can get kind of weird for some reason, especially if they're close together to another thing. You kind of have to access it from the side or like from the opposite end, and I don't understand why it does that, but then it kind of gets annoying because then you have to figure out where you're actually supposed to access it from when you're standing right in front of it. And then also, this is probably the biggest thing, if they can work this out, then it'd just be so much better, specifically for efficiency and base building. PALs, they have certain traits that they apply when they're working in the base, these don't have anything to do with damage or when you're out adventuring and fighting with them. But when they're in the base, they have these 10 traits. I think they're 10 or 12 traits. And if you have a quarry to mine rocks or woodcutter thingamajiggy, they have these little thingies, and depending on what the symbols they have, they're able to do certain things. Now the problem is sometimes you have these really good pals, but they have 4 or 5 different traits and they just start jumping around like crazy and they end up doing nothing. They don't get anything done. It's kind of like me trying to work on videos and make this stuff happen. But they'll go from wood cutting for 5 seconds, then they'll jump over to, I don't know, moving wood from that thing to the box, and then they'll jump over to trying to build something, and then they'll go back to mine rocks, and they're just constantly spinning all over the place. And I get it, that's me. But I'm hoping that the developers can allow you to give guidance to the pals, because there's no way to instruct them to do anything. You can pick them up and throw them at something, but they don't always listen. Even if there's a job to be done that they can do, they'll just walk away, and you'll see text saying, oh, there's nothing to be done, they're gonna go do something else. But if you can guide them and instruct them what to do specifically, then that just makes things way better. Now for the question of the day, is PalWorld worth playing? I would say definitely yes. Obviously, this is a game for those who enjoy collecting, exploring. This is an open world collecting, survival, crafting, base building game. It's those 4 things. If you like base building, crafting, survival, adventure, then you definitely like this game. There's so much to do, and even when you collect them all, they even have traits that if you wanted specific traits for them, you have to find other ones, breed. It just becomes, there's so many things to do in this game. Problem is, it is still in its early access phase, so if you're gonna have the bugs, you're gonna have the wonkiness, the clunkiness, the weird UI I was talking about, and they don't have dedicated servers yet, so somebody has to host the world and their computer has to be on, and well, the world has to be open, and even then you can only play with 3 other people. There can only be 4 people on one world at once. Or you can try port forwarding and doing this whole complicated process in order to host a bigger server for you and your friends, or you can go with the third-party hosting program, which is what we ended up doing. But with the popularity of the game, they're kind of overloaded and they're hard to find. They're kind of expensive, not too bad depending on how many people you're playing with, but for a game you already paid for, you usually don't want to pay extra to play. It's an unneeded expense, so you have to cover that. And then also, since it's on a separate server somewhere else, it could get a little laggy. But even with all that being said, you can still definitely play this game and get the full experience out of it. You just got to deal with all those little minor bugs, lagginess, but it's not the worst. I could definitely see somebody putting hundreds of hours in this game as it is, and the developers already kind of pushed out a roadmap, and it's not always 100% accurate, but if they can get what they're doing on track in their roadmap, then the game's just going to be feeling better over time and months to come. And if you have anything else that you'd like to see me review, games, books, food, anything you can think of, let me know in the comments and I'll try to get to that as soon as possible. That's my take on PalWorld, and I will see you all later.